new segment that I'm starting to do randomly. It's just 5-minute rants. So I'm one half of millennial spectrum, and sometimes it's just nice to get this stuff down, especially when you go through and you witness major world events and you've seen these things over and over again. I'm at the stage now in my life where I've been through a few of these. I don't have the most experience at everything, but I see these themes and these stories and these news events play out over and over again. So here's 5 minutes of my ranting about the Maduro situation in relation to Venezuela, and just more so how the United States and people around me are reacting. I can only rant basically on the things that I've read and the interactions I've had with people and the things I've seen in social media. It's an interesting dynamic how that shapes your world, right? How that becomes reality. Whatever you consume is who you become. I've learned that I am very much in an echo chamber, and it's an echo chamber of my own tailoring, as well as the influence of others and family members and things like that. They suggest you follow someone or listen to someone, or have you seen this podcast and they talk about someone else, and next thing you know, you accumulate and curate this echo chamber, and it's highly effective at keeping you entertained. And then also the algorithms are doing that, right? So it's highly effective at keeping you entertained, keeping your attention, and keeping you on the app. I come with this perspective and understanding that I know that I'm highly influenced and have those things, but yet I more so have a series of questions and interesting perspective based on the information I've seen thus far. So the things that I understand about Venezuela is I didn't realize how critical of a point it was in Southern America and in this hemisphere. From a military strategic point in area, it seems to have a lot of foreign adversaries and a lot of foreign interest. And in particular, that whole entire area, if you go back post-World War II stuff, Southern America starts to become a really interesting hotbed for a lot of activity for foreign countries. And maybe it was before then, but this is my awareness of it. And starts to developing and getting involved in these nations. And even you go back to the 70s and 80s, you see the play in there, and in particular in the 80s and the war on drugs and narcotics. I always thought it was just like a couple of areas. I didn't realize there's this migrating dynamic that happens down there where these countries, it seems like it interfered with the interests of foreign nations that are stronger, and then the population shifts into different areas as well as the influence shifts. With Venezuela, some things I was not aware of for a long time was that the amount of silver they have there, some large silver mines, the amount of gold bullion supposedly that is there, and then obviously the oil is a big concern that many people are talking about, the control and the interest in the oil. To be fair, the more you look into oil, at least for me, this is what I've seen thus far, is you realize there's oil all over the place. When I was a kid and I was younger, I very much understood that it was considered a fossil fuel derived from rotten organic matter, essentially, and compressed, and then comes back out to the surface in the story. But it seems that there's an awful lot of it, and it's in various areas throughout the world, and in much larger quantities than what are being reported. It's almost like the process of extracting and refining it is what controls the price, as well as who wants to put in the work to do that. So there is obviously, though, a huge wealth or store of oil there. As far as our reaction to how things have played out is that the United States at one point in the previous administration put a $25 million bounty for the arrest of this individual. Looks like that bounty was enacted and through force. I see people talking about this being an act of war. It doesn't seem to be an act of war, how war is defined, and Congress needing to say that. I looked, and I believe the last time Congress initiated war was World War II, or signed off on it, however you want to say it. Until then, it's been all these incursions and small events and boots on the ground. I don't remember there being a congressional hearing about Desert Storm and Desert Shield. Those were all operations and things of that nature. So I think we redefined a lot of that a long time ago. I've seen the move from foreign nations into Southern America and into the Western Hemisphere in a means to help influence and control the United States of America. And then I've seen politicians in the United States of America assist in that as well. I've seen the degradation and the destruction of those cultures and countries and areas in response for whatever minerals and resources they do have. Very similar as people have talked and pointed out about various things of Africa, or what is happening with Africa now, or what has happened with Africa, and particularly in the past. The bigger thing that's surprising to me is that this may be a linchpin to more dynamic world power struggle, is that these countries were gaining influence. Like literally on the day that Maduro was extracted, he had a delegation from China there with him, hosting him. And then I had seen reports that the vice president Venezuela had fled the country and was going to Russia at one point. It's just interesting the amount of influence that that area had, how close it is to the Western Hemisphere, how close it is to the United States of America. Again, going back to the idea of what we experienced or what earlier people had experienced with the Cuban Missile Crisis, and more so being control dynamic of control of South America, wealth, power, influence, and potentially military application. Yeah, those are my rant on Venezuela.